Hello, I'm Liz Schafer, she, her, and I'm a performance historian. Today I'll be talking about an eco-performance history I'm writing for a book on internationalisation and theatre, edited by John Seven and Brangwen Stone. This history looks at the opening scene of The Tempest and asks how the boatswain's reprimand, "You do assist the storm," might apply to theatre makers and performance historians. My thinking is influenced by the fact that for the last 5 years, I have been, in addition to teaching drama and theatre studies at Royal Holloway, delivering carbon literacy training. The training encourages everyone to think of the carbon cost of what they are doing. That's one reason I'm not using PowerPoint today, because that would increase the carbon cost of this three-part presentation, in which I will award marks out of 10 to, firstly, the opening scene of The Tempest in Shakespeare's Playhouses. Secondly, the same scene in Philida Lloyd's 2016 production. And thirdly, to my work practices as a performance historian writing about this scene. My overall critical strategy is to use the Theatre Green Book and carbon literacy, which is central to Green Book thinking, to ask what carbon cost is implied, and does this work assist the storm that is climate breakdown? The benchmark is Elizabeth Freestone's RSC Sustainability Infused Tempest, which gets 10 out of 10 from me. The Theatre Green Book was first published online in 2021, and a second updated version was published in June 2024. It unapologetically emphasises refuse, reduce, recycle, and encourages the use of calculators. I've just checked that I've got that right. Refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, I'm not using calculators, I'm not doing sums, I'm not even guesstimating, but I am asking questions and creating my own impressionistic version of film and television's We Are Albert Awards. The Albert Awards originated in carbon literacy training. So my equivalent is marks out of 10 that I am awarding to productions and my own work practices. Okay, so part one is Shakespeare's Playhouse. Andrew Gurr argues that The Tempest was written for performance at the indoors Blackfriars Playhouse, which Shakespeare's company took over in 1608, and the Blackfriars required breaks in the action for candles to be trimmed. This is legible in The Tempest's clear five-act structure, with breaks implied between the acts. The play would also have been performed by daylight at the outdoor Globe Playhouse, but the first documented production was at another venue. In November 1611, the play was performed indoors at court at Whitehall. Play text was not published until 1623, 7 years after Shakespeare's death. The Tempest opens with the stage direction, "A tempestuous noise of thunder and lightning heard." Gurr notes that the noise of thunder could be created by a metal ball or bullet rolled down a metal trough, accompanied by drums. This could work in all three of the known venues. Lightning, which could be created by fireworks or rosin in the outdoor playhouses like the Globe, would be unlikely in the Blackfriars or at court because of the stink, Gurr's words. Plus, the proximity of the audience, some of whom at the Blackfriars paid extra money to exhibit themselves sitting on the stage. Now, John Jowett argues that the Tempest stage directions suggest that the scribe who prepared the folio text, Rafe Crane, saw the play in performance, and his memories colour how descriptive those stage directions are. So it is worth noting that the opening stage direction is entirely auditory. A visual direction follows later, "Enter mariners wet." Another auditory direction reports a confused noise within. And dialogue, "We split," indicates the ship is foundering. Well, my Theatre Green Book reading points to the frugality of spectacle in Act 1, Scene 1, noting that many directors through the centuries have actually thrown most of their design budget at the play's opening. But I have to acknowledge that Ariel's magic mask in Act 4 probably ups the carbon budget. Ariel, the great theatre maker, also has several costume changes. There's Ariel, he's the nymph of the sea, or they're the nymph of the sea, Harpy, and Ceres. And Ariel produces a lot of spectacle. However, Shakespeare worked with two recycled playhouses. The timbers of the Globe were recycled from the theatre in North London, and the Blackfriars was a repurposed priory. Consequently, despite the mask, I would award Shakespeare's production 7 out of 10 for not really assisting the storm. Part 2, Phyllida Lloyd. Lloyd's Tempest for the Donmar Warehouse began a run in 2016 in a purpose-built tent. It was not a tent. It was more substantial than a tent, next to King's Cross station in London. Lloyd's primary intention with this production was to enable Shakespeare's play to tell women's stories and to deploy an all-female cast. The production was the third in Lloyd's Shakespeare trilogy, which was set in a women's prison. Lloyd filmed the production, which is available online, and the film continues to be used in arts outreach work with incarcerated women in prison communities. In this production, the prisoners are marched in, all carrying black bin bags. Harriet Walter, who is playing Hannah, who is playing Prospero, explains that her character is a life prisoner. She sits at a desk looking through a book of cuttings. The other prisoners tip plastic bottles and a mixture of rubbish out from their bin bags to form a circle within the in-the-round playing space. Shakespeare's words are completely jettisoned for a mental storm. The experience of imprisonment is evoked by a violent soundscape of sirens and prisoners banging against the wire mesh doors, panicking, yelling. There is thunder, flashes of lightning, and then Miranda runs on, grabs Prospero's book, and begins Shakespeare's text at Act 1, Scene 2. The prison setting included a commitment to using what prisoners might have access to for props, so staging was logically frugal. Costumes were basically grey tracksuit uniforms, but the use of rubbish to create the island and delineate the circle of Prospero's power produced a fringe of detritus that unfortunately would wash up on any beach today. The tent used new materials, but it would not have the overheads of, for example, a Victorian West End theatre. The production was easy to get to on public transport. So even though it was not Lloyd's primary intention to ask questions about assisting the storm, I would award a 4 out of 10 for the production's potential for illuminating environmental issues and not massively assisting the storm. Part 3, my eco-performance histories. For my performance histories of the Taming of the Shrew and Twelfth Night, I zipped around the globe. I flew, particularly to Australia and Canada. I spent a lot of time in Stratford, Ontario. For my work on the Tempest, I have not flown. I have relied on reviews. I have not scrutinised prompt copies. Is this shoddy scholarship? In addition, in this essay, I offer an impressionistic eco-audit for my research, which costs travel, which is easy, but not data centre usage. Is making visible the carbon costs of my scholarship responsible, acknowledging my privilege, or is it eccentric? Because what became clear to me is that because of the unexamined carbon costs of the data centres, I'm not sure I can even award myself 1 out of 10. Unfortunately, looking back across my career, I think I have far too often assisted the storm.